Hello everyone, I'm Aisling and it's really wonderful to have been here with you this weekend, but my role is with Pax Christ and I'm the school and youth education worker. I can see somebody heading this way, so I'm going to do that, and I got a thumbs up, so that's a good sign. So my role really includes working with children, with young people and with teachers to promote kind of peace education and that message of peace in schools, universities, youth groups, etc. And it's a privilege really to be able to do that work, to see signs, I think, of hope in the kind of work that I'm doing and in the people that I meet, and to be part of people's journey in working towards a more just society. I often talk to students about people that they see putting justice into action, and you get all kinds of answers. I sometimes get family members, I get talk about teachers, sometimes it might be celebrities, and sometimes even politicians. But I remember very clearly there was one session where I like to move on and not talk about what other people are doing, but what they can do. And I had one very strident voice come from the back of the room one day saying, "Vote Boris Johnson out." And unsurprisingly, maybe, there was a massive round of applause kind of spontaneously. And I think it's very easy to make kind of generalisations about young people and children, but I do think it's fair to say that young people are very aware of what is happening in our society and in our world. And my overall impression is that social justice, peace, equality, fairness are really important for the young people that I work with. And I was at a launch report a few weeks ago, and one of the speakers had been talking to a teacher that she works with, and the kind of anecdotal evidence that she got was that teachers are finding young people are more interested in social justice than they ever have been before. The teacher was saying that interest has just skyrocketed over the past few years. So I was working, I'm going to do that, there we go. I was working 2 weeks ago in a primary and then a secondary school, and we were talking about how we build peace, kind of practical examples of things we could do. And there were some real insights into what peacemaking could look like. Some real original, coherent ideas, as well as a recognition of the importance of activism, doing something active, putting faith into action. And I also often do workshops on conflict and violence. And if we know what peace is, we need to look at what might be the root causes of violence and conflict to work towards peace. And young people were identifying a huge range of forms of conflict that they face in their everyday life. Everything from things on a personal level, in their communities, globally, as well as those ideas that Father Patrick were talking about yesterday, about those manifest violence, but also structural violence. So things that are coming up are things like racial injustice and kind of the importance of Black Lives Matter, climate change, a lack of support for mental health, homophobia, war, kind of violence and knife crime, poverty, homelessness. The list goes on as to all the kinds of things that young people are identifying as kind of injustices and these impediments to peace, if you like. And these are things that young people are seeing in their life, kind of on a personal level and in the media. However, there's also a sense of sometimes engaging with injustice. So being very eager to call out those double standards that we might see, unfairness, a lack of coherence in what people are saying and what people are doing, and also sometimes a lack of agency that young people might find they have when they're trying to change in some way, or where they see an injustice but there's something maybe blocking them in the structures that they're involved in. And I'm also challenged very much by the young people. Who do I think I am getting up there talking about peace? So there's ideas like, do I think peace is possible? How? But also, why am I not working in this country? Why am I not talking about that conflict? At which point I'm a little bit like, ask your teacher, they're the ones who booked me, kind of thing. But and there's a real sense of not just wanting to talk. I'm not just there to talk, I need to be there giving practical reasons and kind of giving them things that they want to get involved in as well. And if I'm honest, I don't actually remember being that engaged when I was young. And so I do think it's really encouraging for me and inspiring for me to see people already engaged in that kind of thing. And I also like what I call the hang on a minute questions, where you sometimes introduce a topic that people might not know so much about, and you get this kind of light bulb moment of putting the new knowledge they have and the values together to kind of ask those questions that are much more critically analytical than I think you sometimes might just get on a kind of just general talk, a real engagement in wanting to be critiquing what we're seeing. And I really think for me, this idea of wanting to be an active citizen, a critical citizen, a citizen who cares, is something that is really hopeful for the future in a society that we might want to build. But I'm also really fortunate to work with networks where I can see young people taking active roles in working for social justice. I think before I do that though, it's maybe fair to point out that we have organisations such as that here with us this weekend. So we've had Student Christian Movement. I know there's a couple of people involved in the Young Christian Climate Network. I think the Ecological Conversion Group, it's fair to say as well, would fit into that. So it's not just kind of vague, we have people here as well who are doing that work. But I think also I'm very happy to be a member of Religions for Peace, the Interfaith Youth Network, where we see people working and their faith kind of calling them to work, not just in kind of the Catholic community, but in many other communities as well. We work with youth-led organisations such as Demilitarised Education to get weapons out of universities. We're in contact with Teach the Future, our youth-led campaign for climate education in the UK. And we also see young people getting involved in kind of protests and activism with Extinction Rebellion, even groups with CAFOD. And often this work can be intergenerational. So this support and learning is something that I think brings hope for all of us sharing our dreams, our experience and our work. And a few weeks ago, Million Minutes had their Celebrating Young People Awards, and I was privileged to be on one of these panels. And these awards celebrate young people from across the country who put Catholic social teaching into action, and they're nominated by their teachers, their youth workers, their chaplains. And I've had the opportunity also to work with some of the alumni of those awards. And many of them are still active in working for social justice, working for peace on a wide range of issues. And I think they really are, not just the future, but the present of the church as well. And a bit of a shout out as well to Sue from Lancaster Diocese, who invited me up to work up there along with Terry. And there's some really inspiring work with youth groups, especially impact youth groups, working in their communities, but also to empower each other. So there was a young women's empowerment project that's really inspiring, I think, to see young people wanting to inspire each other, to work with each other, to put their faith into action with each other. And I could give so many more examples, but I'll stop because I think I'll just be giving list upon list upon list. But I think it's abundantly clear that young people are involved in social action, leading social action, inspiring social action, campaigning with each other, for each other, doing really innovative and striking campaigns. And I think that's hope for the future again, but also very much hope in the present that work is happening, that engagement is there. And yesterday I was in a workshop, and I apologise for not quite getting the name of the person, but somebody mentioned this idea of needing to embrace warm-heartedness. And one of the hopeful signs for me is also the compassion that I can really see with the young people that I work with. So many of you will know James Truby from Columban's Justice and Peace Education. So we were working together a few years ago at a Faith in Action Day in a school, and we had one of our guests, one of the visitors, was a refugee who was about to be able to finally reunite with one of their family members. And the joy that the young people had in hearing that message, just that human connection that they were able to make and share, was just a really lovely example of the joy and the care that I think young people do have when they come into encounter with others. And I think more recently we can also see the massive kind of outpouring of support for what's happening in Ukraine and students really wanting to respond. And some really kind of unique examples of people doing everything from vigils, and it might be fundraising, but generally wanting to do something there. So I feel like I've missed a bit, yes I have. So I think it's important to mention the importance of teachers, of chaplains, youth workers, educators in the work that I do. I couldn't do the work that I do without them. And my overwhelming feeling is that there are educators, teachers, youth workers out there that really want the young people they work with to be involved and active in exploring social justice, what peace means, what justice means. And they really recognise the value in this and kind of promote that work in what they're doing. So I think the good educators that we can see wanting the best for their young people and who are encouraging them to be active is hope as well, a kind of very active kind of form of wanting to pass that message on and creating a more caring society. So what action can you take? It's kind of not used just me standing up here chatting about anecdotes, kind of, what is the practice in this? I think firstly, let's recognise it and let's celebrate it. It's very easy to kind of just get a bit bogged down in what we see not happening. And it's also important that whatever age we are, we do support each other. And that's a kind of a key thing in our work. Share news stories, kind of share the work that's happening, talk to people about it. And when you hear a good thing, share it with others. It might even be if you're on social media, kind of those shares are always useful to kind of get networks going. Nominate young people for the Million Minutes Award when it comes up next, to share those news stories, to highlight what's happening. And it might be just in your parish, if you see something happening, put up a sign, spread the word, kind of promote something, offer support, and listen to the young people that you're coming into contact with and where they're at. It's very easy to project, but kind of, really listen, I think, to where young people are at and what they want to say. Because networking is always really important, it's always really useful, but I think sometimes a slightly no pressure approach, where we're not kind of forced into doing a piece of work, but actually looking to see where those signs of hope can grow and those networks can grow in a way that will bear fruit. We're not in competition with one another, we're all working to the same goals. And you might actually want to point young people in the direction of the Christian Peace Education Fund. I have some leaflets that I can hand out later, and they support young people in giving grants for peace education. And often that access to funding, to gatekeepers, can be something that is really important. So if you do know young people, or you might vaguely know that somebody might want some grants, come to me later and I'll happily give you some information and leaflets there. So just to end, I want to reiterate that the hope that I get from working with young people and educators is a real inspiration to me, and I hope just some of those stories will give you hope that there is kind of an active sense of engagement with social justice and the desire for social justice and for a more caring and just world that our young people are very much active and engaged in. So I'm going to leave it there, and hopefully I didn't go too much over time. Thank you.